speaking of jobs on the line, we got a head coach that we think is under pressure. We got a quarterback that we think is under the most pressure. And the question that we have right now is which quarterback and which head coach is under the most pressure for the upcoming season. And Zach, I would love to start us off. And I'm going to start us off with let's go quarterback, since we already talking about quarterbacks. Then we go to the head coach.
Oh, so this is separate.
Yeah, separate.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought it was one pair.
You thought it was a quarterback head coach combo?
Yeah, so I'll have to rethink my answer.
I mean, in that situation, I know exactly where you would have went, and I would have went the same way too. But I want to spice it up.
There were really two options that I couldn't choose from, but interesting.
Is Miami one of them?
That's a good one, but it wasn't even who I was thinking about.
Okay. Well, Miami would have been, that for me. But speaking of head coach, might as well start with the head coach, because my head coach is going to be in Miami. That's going to be Mike McDaniel. I think he has the most to prove out of all the head coaches, and I think his leadership skills will be tested this year. He has to prove that more directly. Can he be a leader of men? You have Tyreek Hill throwing up a bunch of distractions, starting from last season into this season into the off season. A lot of distractions. The fights over the summer, the not so great play calling in the preseason game against Chicago, the Jalen Ramsey trade, and this team obviously needs a leader of men. Mike McDaniel was known to be a fun guy, like Kawhi Leonard. I'm a fun guy, right? I'm a fun guy. I'm a cool coach. I'm cool, calm, and collective. I'll give you my perspective. But guess what? At the end of the day, all you leader meant, because it's obvious in year 4 that this team does not respect his authority. You got prisoners running the asylum here. Check out this quote from Jalen Ramsey on the Pivot podcast. I do appreciate the Dolphins and them working with me, Ramsey said. But hey, this team called, and we're going to send you here. Let's go to a team that's going to be able to compete. Let's go to a team where there's a lot of respect for the head coach. One thing about Tomlin, now I know I come at Tomlin a lot for not winning the playoff game, but he is a leader of men. He is a player's coach. Now, sometimes things get out of hand. You got your Antonio Brown, your Chase Claypool, your Juju, your George Pickens. I get it. But for the most part, guys want to play for him, and guys respect his authority for the most part outside of diva wide receivers. But when it comes to Mike McDaniel, do this team even respect you? So, to me, when it comes to leadership, we know we could lean into your play calling, right? But you don't have that much leadership on this team as far as the players. John Smith, your veteran, traded. Calais Campbell, your defensive tackle, gone. Your left tackle, Terrion Armstead, gone. So no longer do you have these veterans within your organization. The team is falling apart. And the only thing that could steer this ship in the right direction is if Mike McDaniel's leadership skills improve. And that's why I think he has the most to prove.
So I'll say this. I just think the vibes around this team right now are terrible. And I think this team has major blow-up potential. And it really started last year, of course, after that season finale against the Jets. Tyreek Hill says, "I'm out, bruh. Trade me." Like he made it clear he doesn't want to be in Miami anymore. And I respected Tua Tagovailoa for this. He was asked right when the team got to training camp if there was any update on the Tyreek Hill situation, basically what are his thoughts on everything that went down. And Tua kind of made it clear, like he was really disappointed in Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill needed to do a lot of work in order to gain his quarterback's trust back, because Tyreek basically just quit on the team. He sat him out. He pulled himself out of that Jets game to end the season. And I just don't think Tua Tagovailoa really likes Tyreek Hill anymore. And it's one thing when Tyreek is on that field making big plays, but he didn't do that last year. I also think this Dolphins offensive line is a major concern. They lost Armstead, as you said. I've been hearing some good things about their young left tackle, Patrick Paul, at a training camp. He's a second-round pick a few years back. But outside of him, there are a lot of question marks on the offensive line. The right tackle is a very important position for them because Tua is a lefty. That's his blind side. Austin Jackson, a first-round pick a couple years ago, he's out right now. His status is in jeopardy for the start of the season. And then the secondary on this team is terrible. I mean, there is not a worse corner room in the NFL right now than the Miami Dolphins. I mean, Jack Jones, who was just signed off the street a few weeks ago, Storm Duck, that's a real person. Ethan Bonner, like I don't know who any of these guys are. So I think the Dolphins,
Duck.
yeah, that's a real player. Like I think this secondary, this defense is in big trouble. Chop Robinson is banged up. Jalen Phillips
Chop
is
Robinson.
probably he's a good player, but he's hurt right now. He got banged up.
Yeah.
He's a former first round pick. Like he
Nah,
can
I get
play.
it. I get it.
But
The name is throwing me off. Chop.
Jalen Phillips, probably the player I like the most on that defense.
Yeah.
He's very talented, but he gets hurt a lot. The vibes with this team are just off. I think they have major ball potential. And the reason I didn't even consider them, honestly, is because I'm already writing them off. I think McDaniel's gone after the season.
No, I got you. I just think he has a lot to prove. And being the leader, can you be a leader? Because that's where, in order to save all these things that's going on, the losses, the subtractions, the distractions, right? It's leadership skills. He hasn't proven that he has any, but can he put his foot down? Can he galvanize a team? Can he take command of the locker room and save this from going downhill? That's why I think he has a lot to prove, because I don't know. He might be out of a job after the season.
Okay, I'll go with the head coach. I think is under the most pressure. And really, this was a tough one for me because I think there are two guys that are in the exact same position. And I think I could have said either one for the same reason. But I'm going to go with Sean McDermott of the Bills. And here's why. There's this stat. I think I've said it on this show a bunch. In the history of the NFL, there has never been a head coach quarterback combination that has won a Super Bowl after their first 5 years together. So if you're a head coach quarterback combo and you win a Super Bowl together, it always happens within your first 5 years. And obviously we know that duo of Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, they're going on year 8 now, and they haven't won a Super Bowl yet. And the reason I say Sean McDermott, I think we all know he's a very good coach. And if Buffalo were to let him go, he'd get picked up right away. But I feel confident in saying, Will, like if the Bills don't make the Super Bowl this year, he's getting fired, because that is the only aspiration this team has. And for the first time in a while, I actually really like the Bills offseason, specifically their draft. Drafting Maxwell Harrison in the first round, corner from Kentucky. He's banged up right now, but I think he's a really good young player. They draft Landon Jackson, young pass rusher from Arkansas. I think he's going to make an impact. I like that they took defensive players in their first 5 picks of the draft. We know that defense has been the thing that has let this team down in the playoffs. I also think moving off Stephon Diggs has proven to be the right move. Josh Allen is good enough where you could surround him with whatever wide receivers. He's going to make them better. I like Shakir. I like Keon Coleman. I think Coleman could be in for a breakout season. They paid James Cook, which is a good thing. They got that distraction nipped out of the way. I think Brandon Beane, their GM, has had his best offseason in a while. So now it's all up to Sean McDermott to get this team over the hump and get them to the Super Bowl. And I do think Buffalo, if you look at their schedule, it's interesting. Not only is this the last year of their home stadium, they're going to move into a new stadium next year, but all of their difficult games are at home. They play the Ravens at home on Sunday Night Football in week 1. They play the Chiefs at home. They play the Eagles at home. Literally every difficult game this team has is going to be at home. So in my opinion, there's no reason for them not to get the number 1 seed. And ultimately the path to the Super Bowl in the AFC should go through Buffalo, New York. So I do think it's as simple as that. If the Bills don't at least make the Super Bowl, I do think they're going to be looking for a new head coach. It's now or never for Sean McDermott. But the reason why this question was intriguing to me is because everything I just said about Sean McDermott, I think you could say the exact same thing about John Harbaugh. And Harbaugh has been the Ravens coach long enough where we know he's very good. He's won a lot of games. He's won a Super Bowl in Baltimore. But that has happened over a decade ago. That's a pretty long time ago now. We know that Lamar Jackson has had 2 of the best regular seasons we've seen recently from a quarterback. But ultimately, he could not get the job done in the playoffs in either of those 2 years. We also know that the Ravens are not going to move on from Lamar Jackson if they fall short yet again. I think Harbaugh could be that guy. And it's as simple as that. Like if Baltimore doesn't make the Super Bowl, Harbaugh could go. And both of those quarterback head coach combinations, Harbaugh and Jackson, Allen and McDermott, they've been together for over 5 years. They haven't won that Super Bowl yet. And we have not seen a head coach quarterback combo get that done when they're after their 5th year together. So I'm going to say McDermott, but I think you could bring up a very similar case for John Harbaugh as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we was even doing quarterback head coaching combos, I think Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh would be number 1. I think Josh Allen and Sean McDermott will probably be number 2. I think Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel will probably be number 3. And it's all for different reasons, right? Because you can look at this question and look at it from the perspective of who's under the most pressure to win. who's under the most pressure to keep their job, right? So in your case, who's under the most pressure to win would obviously be Sean McDermott in conjunction of keeping his job because you believe if he doesn't get over the hump this year, he may not have a job. Whereas with me, I'm looking at it from those perspective as well. They were in consideration, but I think for me, I don't think Mike McDaniel will be without a job. But I do like the Sean McDermott pick too because he's supposed to be a guy that coaches up his defense to, success, right? And you look at every year since 2020, 2021, the Bills in the playoffs, their defense has given up no less than 27 points, right? Mind you, they gave up 42 points to the Chiefs in the in the divisional round a couple years ago, despite scoring 36 points. The defense couldn't stop the Chiefs last year, despite Josh Allen constantly moving them down the field. Again, if you are a defensive guy and you coach in defense, I expect your defense to make stops. And that's why I'm glad that they focus on that side of the ball via the draft this year.
Also, I forgot to bring this up too. They signed Joey Bosa. I think he's going to be a guy that is better than Von Miller. I think that was a sneaky good signing as well.
No, it was. And that's why you invest on that side of the ball because come January, I know what I'm getting from Josh Allen. Josh Allen has proved that he can go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. And at time, I won't say outplay Mahomes, but go tit for tat because both guys, Mahomes seemed like he played his best football against Josh Allen. And I say the same thing with Josh Allen, plays his best football against Mahomes. So I'm not going to say one outplay the other, but both going tit for tat. What's the common denominator? Well, the Chiefs defense can get a stop on third down with Chris Jones. Now, as a coordinator, that's a head coach, but you focus on defense, you need your guys to be able to make similar stops to help Josh Allen this time get over Patrick Mahomes. So I like that pick a lot. I like John Harbaugh as well because the Ravens haven't won consecutive games in the playoffs going back to freaking 2012, I believe. I'm talking about consecutive games, without the bye. It hasn't happened in almost a decade, so or over a decade. So clearly they have some winning that they need to do. Zach, I'll pass it over to you for your quarterback under the most pressure.
Yeah, well, this is an easy one for me. This is a guy that's come up a lot on this show, and I'll talk about him even more because I think this needs to be addressed. Yeah, the quarterback for me is J.J. McCarthy because he's literally on a team with Super Bowl aspirations, despite the fact that he hasn't even played a down in the NFL yet. And I just think, you want to talk about pressure, that is pressure right there, the situation he's walking into. And his timeline is so fascinating to me because when he was in college, Michigan football has been in the news over the course of the last few days because of the penalty that came down from the NCAA over the sign stealing scandal. You could have whatever opinion you want about that. That's a discussion for another day. But the reason I bring it up is because when J.J. McCarthy was leading Michigan to a national championship, the conversation wasn't even about him. It was about how loaded his team was around him. And even after they won that national championship, there were still doubts about him being a first-round worthy NFL quarterback. And then he suffers a brutal injury in training camp last year. So he kind of goes off the radar a little bit. We know what Sam Darnold did. But going into this year, his stock has never been higher. Like literally, I've never seen people talk about J.J. McCarthy the way they are right now. It never happened when he was in college, and it didn't happen when they drafted him. But because Kevin O'Connell did such a good job with Sam Darnold last year, the hype is out the window right now. And I just don't think this is a great situation for him to be walking into, despite the fact that he has O'Connell, despite the fact that he has Justin Jefferson, because there's literally no room for him to grow. Like, if he makes a mistake that costs the Vikings a game, all of the blame is going to be on him. And I don't think that's some healthy situation for a rookie quarterback to be walking into. This is a team literally with Super Bowl aspirations. So I just think that's a little bit unfair to him, but I get why. My thing is here, I just think he's a guy that's going to have some growing pains, especially coming off the injury. I'm not saying he's never going to be good, but I just think this is an impossible situation for him to be walking into with way too much pressure because there's no room for error. There's no room for growth. He literally has to win right here, right now, or else the pressure is going to be on. It already is on. So this was really a no doubter for me. It's J.J. McCarthy.
I mean, look, before I address J.J., I mean, we could throw Mike Tomlin into that head coaching under the most pressure. He hasn't won a playoff game in dinosaur years now. Okay. You got Aaron Rodgers. You both of the defense. You traded for Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith. I mean, yeah, I think he's under a lot of pressure. But yeah, coming back to the quarterbacks and that point of JJ McCarthy, I think it's a great pick. I think it's an excellent pick because of the expectation. We saw what Sam Darnold did last year, how he was able to resurrect his career, have success, throw for that many touchdowns, that many yards, playing the playoffs. Go, I believe they lost what 2 or 3 games, 3 games last year
in the regular
in
season.
the regular season. Two or three, one of those. I mean, either way, great record, and you got to fulfill those shoes immediately. You mentioned it a couple shows ago when I had to take for 99 the Trey Lance situation in which you traded up to draft him, and then you obviously had these crazy expectations. I mean, the team made the Super Bowl a couple years prior, and obviously he wasn't able to gel and get used and acclimated to the system and to the NFL quick enough. They obviously kicked him to the curb. I do think for the best interest of the Vikings is having a 2-year plan with JJ, knowing that this year he's not going to be Sam Darnold of last year, but you will live with the highs, you will live with the lows. That's the best path forward is to have a 2-year plan. If they can commit to that, ignore the noise and focus on quarterback development for this year, then I think they'll be fine. I even think JJ McCarthy will impress. I think he will surprise a few people. I do believe in this guy ability, but I do believe he's under crazy amount of pressure and expectations that could get the best of him. We'll find out. I like the pick. I think that's a very strong pick right there. You can make the argument he's the biggest X factor in his entire division. So yeah, I like
Well,
that pick.
I just wanted to comment on that. So I think you said the Vikings' number one focus needs to be his development. I don't think it is. I think this team's number one focus is winning a playoff game, something they couldn't do last year, something they haven't done yet in the Kevin O'Connell era. So I don't obviously they don't have a choice. They don't have a Jimmy Garoppolo to replace Trey Lance like what happened in San Francisco. But I think that's where this could get ugly, is that literally their number one priority is not his development. It's getting to the playoffs and winning playoff games, which they couldn't do even with Sam Darnold's great season last year.
If the number one priority was to win playoff games, and you sign Aaron Rodgers, who wanted to come there,
I think they should have
win a playoff game.
I think they should have.
And that's why I don't think it's their number one priority. Because if it was, and Aaron Rodgers wants to come here, he's blowing off the Steelers as long as possible, so he know that you don't want him. I mean, even with the down year, I think you make that move if your number one priority is to win a playoff game, because that's what the Steelers' number one priority is. And they signed who? Aaron Rodgers. Because guess what? They want to win a playoff game. Mike Tomlin hasn't won one in 7, 8 years now. So that's why they made that signing. I think it was the number one priority. Sure, they want to win the playoffs. I mean, they're not going to tell you they don't want to win a playoff game. They're not going to tell you they don't want to win the division. But I think the number one priority is to develop JJ McCarthy and see how fast they can get him to play good football so they can actually win the playoff game. That's how I see it. But if I had to give you a quarterback, Zach, I think your pick was great. I'm going to have to go with Trevor Lawrence here. I'm going to have to go with Clever Trevor. Because to me, he has a lot to prove. I mean, are we forgetting this guy was the next coming of Jesus, right? I mean, come on. I mean, we said this guy's the next Peyton Manning, the next Andrew Luck. Oh, I cannot forget. I understand it seems like it was ages ago, but it wasn't that long ago, Zach. Okay. It was BF, right? Not BC, not AD. All right. But BF, before football. Okay. Before present football. All right, a long time ago, but not that long ago, that people said that this guy was coming to save the league. All right, 2,455 yards or 45 yards, 11 passing touchdowns, 7 INTs last year, 85.2 passer rating, 2-8 in the games you started last year. Is that the guy I was supposed to be expecting? That's the guy you talking about? Doug Peterson. Teach me how to Dougie, Doug. Teach me how to Dougie, Doug. Was supposed to be the guru. The quarterback guru, he wasn't here. Okay, we talking about the same guy who guided Carson Wentz to an MVP caliber season. We talking about the same guy who won a championship with Nick Foles. Trevor, I'm coming to save you. But no, he didn't. He got him fired. The mystique of being a generational prospect coming out of college could not be saved under Doug Peterson's tutelage. Now, here me and Zach are ranking Trevor Lawrence in our top 16, 17 spot with our quarterback rankings, primarily due to projections. due to, oh, yeah, I remember we called this guy generational. He has the physical attributes. He's done nothing this far, but we still going to rank him 16 or 17. I'm going to rank him 16. Why? Because I have that hope. I have the hope for the Pope, okay? And we see the quarterback there with the right attributes and everything, but chopping mechanics at that last year, poor decision making at that last year. But now we hire, and they hire Liam Cohen, a guy that Baker Mayfield thrived with. They move mountains to trade up to draft Travis Hunter to go hunting on the football field to give Lawrence another weapon alongside Brian Thomas Jr. And so far, through 2 preseason games, I've been encouraged with his play. But can that translate into the regular season? Can that be consistent week to week? Can he be that guy? Can he be good? Forget about generational. I don't think that's happening. I think that was too much hype. I think that's gone. But can he be a good quarterback in the league? Can he be a top 15 guy in the league? Well, prove it to me. He has a lot to prove, the most to prove to me.
Okay, so Trevor Lawrence, this is going to be his 5th season he's entering. And I think when you're evaluating him, it's very important to literally go year by year and dissect what has happened throughout his career. We all know he gets drafted number 1 overall by the Jaguars in the 2021 draft, and he got drafted into probably the worst situation any number 1 quarterback could ever get drafted into. He got drafted by Urban Meyer, a guy that we know had no business being an NFL head coach. He didn't last half the season. It was that bad. So first of all, I almost throw his rookie year completely out the window. His second year with Doug Peterson, that first year with him, gets off to a little bit of a slow start. They start off 3-6, but then they go on this crazy winning streak. They win 7 games in a row to win that division, beat the Titans and Mike Vrabel in a winner-take-all game for the division. And like when you said he's done nothing, like he's done something. He won a playoff game, had a 31-point comeback against Justin Herbert and the Chargers. That was pretty impressive. The following week, he was right there against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. That was a competitive game. And then the next year, his third year, they started off really well. They started off 8-3, and he was playing great. They were in contention for the number 1 seed, but then everything changed on Monday Night Football when they're facing the Bengals, and he suffered a brutal injury. Like at the time, we all thought he might have torn his knee up, and he might be out for like a year. I still think he probably should have sat out after that, but he's a tough guy, and he played, but the Jaguar season fell apart. They lost like 4 games in a row. Lost to the Titans, ironically, the same team they beat earlier that prior season, and they missed the playoffs. It was bad. And then last year, I think, is the one season where I think you could put some real blame on Lawrence. He was very disappointing. He was not good. But I don't know why Doug Peterson had this blind faith to Press Taylor, their offensive coordinator, Zach Taylor's brother. I thought it was very clear early on that prior year that Press Taylor was a guy that was completely in over his head. He had no idea what he was doing calling those plays. And luckily for the Jaguars' sake, they decided to move on. I thought that decision ultimately cost Doug Peterson his job. Like, I don't know why he was so loyal to that guy, Press Taylor. He was not good. I think the Jaguars hired a perfect coach in Liam Cohen. I like the draft pick of Travis Hunter. We don't really know what exactly that plan is going to be yet, how much offense, how much defense he's going to be playing. But we do know that he's a very talented player, and I think he's going to help the Jaguars. I also think that Brian Thomas is on the verge of stardom. Like, I think this guy is already one of the top 10 to 12 wide receivers in the league. And even in a down year for Jacksonville last year, I thought Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence, that combo showed me a lot of potential. I think Thomas is going to be really good this year. I also like the additions the Jaguars made on the offensive line. Like, not a lot of big names. The offensive line has been a weakness for this team in years past, but they bring in Patrick Mercari from the Ravens. He's a guy that started a lot of games for that offensive line that's been good in Baltimore over the last few years. And they also signed Robert Hainsey from the Bucs. I'm sure you remember him from the back end of the Tom Brady era. I thought that's a good addition for them as well. And then the running back position, there's some intrigue there. Tank Bigsby looks like he's going to be the guy that starts the year as that guy, but we know in Liam Cohen's offense, he has usages for multiple running backs. I think Travis Etienne and even this rookie they drafted out of Virginia Tech, Bashil Tutin, who had a great combine. He broke some records at the 40, I believe. I think he's going to make an impact in the offense. So I think the Jaguars had a really good offseason. I agree with you that there's some pressure on Lawrence, but I'm expecting him to bounce back. It's now or never for him. I think the Jaguars offense takes a step forward. I'm buying the hype. So Lawrence is a good choice. The other choice for me, and I think he's similar to Trevor Lawrence in the sense that his rookie year and the situation he walked into was so bad that you could almost throw it out the window, and you got to see what he does this year in a much better situation. And that's, of course, the guy that we saw on Sunday night lead his team right down the field with a touchdown drive, turned a lot of heads in the Windy City. That, of course, is Caleb Williams with the Bears. That would be the other name that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think he's under the most pressure out of all the two guys that we named, but he's definitely a guy worth monitoring because clearly Ben Johnson is looked upon as this guru. I thought he looked very great, in this preseason. The utilization of the tight ends, the multiple tight ends, pushing the ball down the field in the middle of the field, making accurate throws. He looked very accurate. He looked very calm. The offense was methodical, and I am definitely interested and hungry to see more. I would like to see more of that. They look really good. The offense looked great. So I just want to see more, obviously, with more playing time. And if he struggles, then I think he's under pressure. But here we have a guy in Trevor Lawrence who, to me, had more hype than Caleb Williams coming out of college. And granted, Caleb Williams had a lot of hype, but I think Trevor Lawrence's hype was greater than Caleb Williams. And yet we have this guy in year 5 compared to Caleb Williams 1 year. Sure, it was a horrible year for all the expectations, but it was 1 year. Here we have a guy year 5. We talk about all the exterior. He got hurt when they was 5-2 against the Bengals, right? Oh, well, the play calling was stale and it got old and Doug Peterson passed his time. Well, okay, Liam Coleman is not past his time. He's a great mind. We saw that in Tampa. You have great weapons. We know that on the football field. You need to make the playoffs. And if you don't make the playoffs, I do think the Jaguars should be and probably will look at drafting a quarterback in the following draft. And we'll see what happens.